Ladies and gentlemen, we ask for those that have a cell phone or pager, if you could turn it to the silent mode. Officiating today is Rabbi Eitan Allen.
Good morning, everybody. On behalf of Mimi's family, I want to thank you all for coming out on a Friday morning, maybe a little earlier than some of the people wanted to be here, to pay tribute and give final respects, Kavod Achron, to Mimi Lederman, Miriam, Asher Bitzchak, Golda, a special person who lived a special life, who touched many, who was wonderful to many, and whose light we already miss, who gave a lot of light and warmth to this world. We'll begin this morning with the chapter of Tehillim, a few verses from the Psalms, to try to help us understand and take pause at the loss of someone special, and as we are missing them today. It's an honor to call up Rabbi Yochanan Posner from the Chabad of Skokie to say a kapitel.
Ashrei haish, asher lo yholach ba'atzis rishayim, u'v'derech hatoyim lo yamad, v'moshev leitzim lo yashav, ki im b'seres Adonai cheftzoi, v'serasa yega yoimam v'loyla, v'haya ke'etz shasul al palgemoyim, asher pirya yitam be'itoi, v'aleu lo yibol, v'chol asher yaseh yatzliach, lo yechein harashayim, ki im kamoitz asher titfenu ruach, Al kain lo yakumu rishoyim b'mishpat v'chatoyim b'das tzadikim ki yodei Adonai derech tzadikim v'derech rishoyim ta'oved. Happy is the one who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, who does not stand in the paths of sinners, who does not sit among the jeering cynics. Indeed, the Lord's teaching is all his desire, and he contemplates that teaching day and night. He is like a tree planted on streams of water, yielding fruit in its season, its leaves never withering. All it produces thrives. Not so the wicked, they are like chaff blown away by the wind. Therefore the wicked will not endure judgment, nor the sinners among the righteous crowd. For the Lord cares for the way of the righteous, while the way of the wicked will be lost forever.
We continue. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai Roi Lo Echsar, Benos Desha Yarbitzeini Yomei Menucha Shinahaleni, Nafshi Yeshove V'yancheni B'maglei Tzedek L'man Shemo, Gam Ki Elech B'geit Salmaves Lo Irara Ki Ato Yimadi, Shiftecha Mishantecha Hema Yinachamuni, Tarech L'fanei Shochan Neged Sorirai, Tishanta B'Shem and Roshi Kosi Revaya, Achtov V'chesed Yerdefuni Kol Yemei Chayai, a Psalm of David, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He lays me down in green pastures, he leads me beside still waters. He refreshes my soul, guiding me along the paths for his name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff encourage me. You set a table before me in the face of my foes. You anoint my head with oil. My cup brims over. May only goodness and kindness follow me the days of my life, and let me live in the house of Hashem for long days. It is customary for the grace of a special Jewish woman to say the words of David's son, Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, the words that we say Friday night, that we will recite in many Jewish homes tonight with the Kiddush, the words of the Eishes Chayil. Eishes Chayil, mi yimsa v'rachak mipnini michra, batach balev bala v'shala lo yechsar, gimalasu tov v'lo ra kol yemei chayeha, darshat semru fishtin v'tas b'chepetz kapeh, haisa kaniyot socher mimerchak tavi lachma, v'takam b'yod laila v'dichin terra levesa v'chok v'narosel, zamim ma'asasa v'sadeh, sadeh v'askacheu mipri chapeh natakarim, chagra b'yos masneh v'tamitz rosel, Tama ki tov sachra lo yichba balayla neira. Yadeh shocha bakishor v'chapeh tamchu fa'aleich. Kappa parseliani v'yadeh shocha le'evyon. Lo sira v'leveisa mishali ki kol beisa lavu shanim. Marvadim asasalah sheishri agam levusha. Noda b'sharim ba'ala shivtoim ziknei aretz. Sadin asasav timkor v'chagar nasna l'knani. Oetz v'hadar levusha v'tischak l'yom acharon. Pia pascha b'chachma v'toras chesed alishona. Sophia halichos beisa v'lechem asos lo sochel. Kamu v'neh v'yeshua, ba'ala v'yehalua. Rabos banos asu chayo, v'at alis al kulana. Sheker achein v'hevel hayofi. Isha yiras Adonai hitis halel. Tenula mipri yadeh, v'yalua b'sharim maseh. Eishes Chayil, an exemplary woman who can find. She is more valuable than pearls. Her husband's heart trusts in her, he will lack no benefit. She will repay his favors, not his insults, in all her life circumstances. She searches for wool and flax, her hands work adroitly. She becomes like the merchant ships. She brings her bread from afar. She rises while it is yet night. She gives sustenance to her household and portions to her maidservants. When she sets her mind upon a field, she buys it. With the fruits of her labor, she plants a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and vigorously exerts her limbs. When she discerns that her wires are good, her lamp is not extinguished by night. She sets her hands to the distaff, and her palms grasp the spindling rod. She stretches out her palms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. She need not fear for her household because of snow, for her entire household is clothed in scarlet wool. She makes bed coverings for herself. Linen and purple is her garment. Her husband is well known in the city gates and sits amongst the elders. She makes clothing and sells it, and benefits for the merchants. Strength and beauty are her garment. She smiles as she faces the future. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and teachings of kindness is upon her tongue. She watches over the conduct of her household, and she does not eat the bread of indolence. Her children rise up and extol her. So does her husband praise her. Many women have excelled, but you have surpassed them all. Charm is false, and beauty is empty. A woman who fears the Lord is praiseworthy. Commend her for the fruits of her hands, and let her deeds praise her in the city gates. It was a real distinct privilege and pleasure to know Mimi. Maybe I would be so impudent to even call her a friend. She was someone who cared deeply for people, and we cared for her. And she was a real treasure in our world, and we already miss her. Mimi was always known, I think, as Mimi. Officially, her name was Muriel for posterity, but we'll call her Mimi. She was born on May 7th, 1935, the fourth day of ER 5695, just a few weeks after Pesach, a time of freedom, redemption, and celebration. And she brought celebration into her family and into her world. She left us this February 19th, on the 21st day of Shvat, the month of celebrating the Jewish New Year, the month of looking at the beautiful world and celebrating the fruit and the bounty that the Lord has given us. And she was beauty and bounty. She was like of the fruits of the world. She was ripe and fertile and moist and beautiful and added so much to this world. She was the daughter of Irving and Goldie Plotkin. She grew up, I assume, with a lot of milk in the house, as Irving was a milkman. She came from a wonderful family. Her dear sister Angel, her dear brother Eddie, the three of them, a wonderful group. She was on the old West Side, the West Side. So many wonderful Jewish families lived there. She went to Marshall High School. I assume she had a wonderful childhood. She went to the University of Illinois, a time when many women were not getting a college education. Many women were not going on to higher education, and she did, and she got a college degree. And later, she went on to get a master's in education from Lewis University. And so she was, although it wouldn't be the first thing you said about Mimi, she was an accomplished lady. She was an academic person. She was a person who could sit in a classroom and learn and grow and understand and inculcate knowledge, even if the first impressions you got was her sweetness and her niceness and her soft sensibilities. She was somebody who had head on her shoulders. For much of her adult life, she was a stay-at-home with the kids, but she did go to work. Of course, she had 3 amazing children, Barry, Sherry, and Michelle, who loved her immensely, and she loved them, and it was a mutual love, and it continues to this day, that mutual love. The family lived in Skokie, although they technically, I think, started out in Logan Square, but they moved quickly to Skokie. They were part of the Skokie Jewish community. They went to Yehuda Moshe for services for synagogue, and they lived a wonderful life. Mimi, besides for having a wonderful family and being at home with the children, was a substitute teacher, was a teacher, sometimes at Hillel Torah, and her students loved her. If you knew Mimi, it was hard not to love her. It was hard not to appreciate how wonderful a person she was. She brought joy into rooms. She made people happy. Her smile was infectious. Her laugh was contagious. She was a wonderful person. And so it was not surprising that even for the substitute teaching, students remembered her for years after. They remembered her and recalled her and would remember how good she was with the kids. We would be remiss if not mentioning not only with her teaching career, but also her many escapades and accomplishments as a travel agent. I think at one point she may have owned her own travel agency, but she was a lover of travel, a lover of helping people travel, a lover of assisting people in getting where they're going, of making the arrangements. We're all spoiled now that you just go on the computer and you make your own arrangements. But back in the day, if you wanted to get a flight somewhere, if you wanted to travel somewhere, you had to have a travel agent. And she was that person who helped so much. And they took their own family vacations. They went often to Florida, to Miami. Many fond memories of the Sterling Hotel, the kosher hotel in Miami. The family would go down there, many vacations. Many trips to California in the car. I don't know if the car always made it in one piece, but they would somehow get from Chicago to California. There was Aunt Ethel's swimming pool and the wonderful warmth of California. Many cruises to all types of places, far and near, seeing the world, enjoying the world, trips to Israel. In her later years, tremendous closeness with her sister Angel, living together and spending so many waking hours together and enjoying each other, not just being good sisters, but being close friends. As I said, she was devoted to her children and her family and her loved ones. Just to take a moment to recognize some of her amazing family. Her son Barry and Marion, Sherry and Chaim, Michelle and Christopher. She was an exceedingly proud grandmother to Hannah and Colin, Zach, Alana and Andy, Ari and Molly. She couldn't say enough good about her family. And of course, her pride and joy, her great-grandchildren, to Asher, Lennon, Adela, Shane, Caleb, and Esther, or Estelle. And she loved them dearly, and they loved her. I was thinking about how well she was liked and how many friends she had at Park Plaza, the years she lived at Park Plaza. And I never heard anyone say a bad thing about her. I never heard anything bad. It was always good. It was always happiness. It was always bringing more goodness to the walls, to the programs. She never wanted to miss a program. She never wanted to not be at something. She always was a joiner. She wanted to go so badly. Even when she was starting to go downhill in the last few weeks and months, she pushed herself. She pushed her body to go to things, to be part of things, to connect with people. And she was joyful, and she was present, and she had this great smile. And you could tell, even though it was hard for her, that she wanted to be there. It says in Proverbs and Mishlei that people connect to the way people are reached out to. Just like water reflects when you look into it, so too a person's heart reflects the way a person feels to them. And I think that's why Mimi was so well liked, because people reflected to the way she was. She saw goodness in people. She liked people. She enjoyed other people. She wanted to make people happy. So you were happy around her, and you connected to her, and you were touched by her. She was also a person who was very wealthy. And what do I mean? The Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, Ezehu Asher Hasameach Bechelko. Who is rich is the person who is happy with their lot. She was somebody who was happy. Whatever trials and tribulations she lived through in her life, she was happy with her life. She was able to smile. She was able to be positive. She was able to find the good in things. She was able to be sameach bechelko. So she was truly wealthy, because the person who is happy with what they have is the person who is wealthy. I think about her traveling so much and all the travels that she did and all the places she saw in the world. There's a famous story with Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch that he was in a part of Germany that was close to Switzerland. And he traveled to the Alps in Switzerland. And nobody could realize why this venerable rabbi was traveling to Switzerland. And they asked the rabbi, why did you take a detour to Switzerland? He said, I wanted to see the Alps. I didn't want to go up to heaven and say, did you see my Alps while you were in the world? And I could say, I hadn't seen those great mountains. Mimi is going to go up to the heavenly throne, and people are going to say, did you enjoy my world? Did you love my world? Did you experience all the beauty of the world? Did you go to Vegas? Did you go to Florida? Did you go to California? Did you go to Israel? Did you go on cruises? And she's going to be able to say a resounding, well, yes, I enjoyed your world. I saw the beauty of your world. I enjoyed people. I enjoyed life. Lastly, I would leave you with the image that she was like a beautiful tree. The Gemara in Tanis famously says that somebody was traveling of thirst in the desert. They had no succor, they had no sustenance, and they found an oasis with a beautiful tree, and they ate of the tree's fruit, and they replenished themselves by the water next to the tree. And they looked up at the tree, and they said, tree, what can I bless you with? You have lush fruit, you have a beautiful stream, you have so much beauty. What can I give you, tree? He said, the only thing I can give you is a blessing that you be, all the children that come for you, all the trees that come for you will be as beautiful as you are. And that's my blessing to Mimi, a wonderful person, a beautiful spirit, a beautiful soul. And may all her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren be as beautiful as she will. Bring the world happiness, bring the world light, and bring the world beauty. May your memory be a blessing. We're going to hear from a number of family members. It's my honor to call up Barry and Zach to say a few words.
Well, that was well said, Rabbi. You covered a lot. I'm going to do my best to just highlight a few things about my mother. I got to say this was a beautiful day, and she would have loved to have the sunshine. She always loved to go out, and whenever it was sunny, go outside and take a walk. And this is befitting, I think. She was a shining example of love and kindness and had zest for life that was contagious. My mom loved everyone she met, and everyone who met her instantly loved her. I just can't ever remember her having a bad thing to say about anyone. This just wasn't in her bones. She just never, ever had a negative feeling about anyone. I feel like everyone who met her was instantly in love with her, and my sister and I were the luckiest people to have been loved by her throughout her lifetime. Growing up, we were blessed to have a mom who loved me unconditionally. She was always there for me, supporting me through thick and thin and encouraging me to pursue my dreams. She was always positive and always saying, you're the best. You can do this. Her marriage to my dad was the beginning of a beautiful journey, but it was the birth of my sisters and I that brought her the greatest joy. As her oldest, I felt so lucky to have her as my mom, and I cherish the memories of our childhood. Our family vacations were legendary, many of which were multi-generations. With my grandparents would always come, sometimes even 2 cars, especially going to Florida. It seemed like we would, as mentioned, we would go to Miami Beach and stay at the Sterling was one of the hotels, one of the kosher hotels, and it just had so much. It was just so much fun, and we were all so close. And the other thing we would do all the time was we would drive to California and fly home. My father had some connection with a car to deliver to California, so they were usually newer cars. But because he tended to drive very fast, the rare times my mother would get her dander up was to say, Leo, slow down. And sure, lo and behold, when on our way to Las Vegas, which was always a stop because they both loved to gamble, the car would break down or overheat, and my memory was it was Needles. I don't know if that's California or Nevada, but just open desert. It would, we would put water in the radiator, and an hour or so later, get on and get to California or get to Las Vegas. My mom liked the slot machines. My dad played cards. So with the slot machines, the kids would run in and pull this handle, and the security would chase us out. Back in those days, we roamed free, not like today. They weren't as concerned about, things that could happen to your children, I guess, back then. And, we kind of had the run of the place at a pretty young age. We had so much fun. And we would go all over. And then we would, eventually end up in Los Angeles and spend a week there, usually staying with my aunt and uncle, swimming in their pool. We'd go to the beaches. We'd go to Catalina Island. We'd go to San Diego. We would travel all over. A famous trip was ours. I'll always remember we must have taken the northern route to California, and we went to San Francisco. And that ride, back then there was no guardrails. Everything was just right on the edge of the highway. And my dad was a bit of a lead foot. He liked the speed, and that would probably be the rare times my mom would get angry, and she would yell at him, "Slow down, Leo." And I always remember, and my Uncle Ed was in the car with us. I believe he was in the car with us. He's shaking his head, so I guess that's my memory. And there was a time when literally he loved to look at the sights while he was doing 80 miles an hour on curved mountainous roads. And I can remember literally feeling the gravel and her going crazy, and somehow he got us out from rolling over the side of a mountain. It was just fun, just incredible memories. We would go on weekends to the Playboy Club. They were pretty hip in their day. They loved the Playboy Club in Lake Geneva, and it seemed like we were there almost every weekend. We had so much fun there. Same thing, pools. I don't know if there was an arcade back then. I can't remember what we did for fun, but I do remember the rare time my mother got angry at me when I actually think my sister Sherry did it too. We would run up to the bunnies and pull their little tails. And God, that sure got her embarrassed and angry at us. And I actually think somewhere around that house is my sister's. We have one bunny tail. One must have came off and somebody ran with it. More likely me, but Michelle apparently has it. I want it back. As I grew older, my mom pursued a passion. I was probably in high school at that point, and she decided she wanted to go become a teacher. She was a very smart woman. She was like a straight A student in school. And I can remember she talking about when she was a bookkeeper for Sears when she met my dad. But she decided she wanted to be a teacher. She just decided she's going to do it, and she did it. Kids were getting older. I know I was at least in high school. Maybe Sherry was already in high school. And she went to night school or whatever, and got her teaching degree, and then went on and got her master's. And I don't think she taught more than a year or two in the Chicago public school system, and somehow found the travel business. I don't know how she found it, but some friend introduced her to it, and she became a travel agent. And they would take advantage of all these familiarity trips, they call them fam trips, traveling all over. And then they would take cruises, and they had so much. My dad just loved cruising. He would just meet everybody. My mom would meet everybody. They met so many friends on these cruises. And after he passed, she kept going on cruises with friends. And one of the things that I never wanted to do was go on a cruise. And just a month ago, I took a cruise with Marion, a 2-week cruise, and I just was so scared to go. And I said, Mom, please be well. And she was so happy. No problems. Every time I felt like then I went out of town like a week later. I had to go to Tampa for a week. Same thing. And I said, Mom, you need to be well. I don't want to have to fly home in the middle of a trade show. And one thing she always supported was, you need to do your work. You need to make money, be busy. Don't worry about me. Please don't worry about me. And guess what? She was totally fine through all this. And, when I got back is when she started kind of going downhill, and it's been tough. My mom's legacy was one of love, kindness, and generosity. She was the most honest, loving person you could ever meet, with a heart full of compassion and a spirit that inspired us all. We welcome everyone with open arms, and everyone she met was happy to have known her. Even after moving to Park Plaza, it was amazing. I couldn't understand it, but everybody knew her name. Everywhere I walked with her, hi, Mimi, hi, caregivers, every person in the place knew her. Obviously, I would see her every week, once or twice, 1 or 2 days for a few hours, not nearly enough. But, so I just don't know how she could have known everybody, but everybody knew her. And then, like the rabbi mentioned, because she was later in life, she became a substitute teacher at Hillel Torah. All those kids were all older and would come and visit their grandparents or parents or whatever, probably not parents. Hi, Mrs. Lederman. They all knew her. It was amazing. I will miss my mom dearly, but her memory will live in my heart. I will continue to celebrate her life, sharing her stories and memories of an incredible woman. She was her incredible woman she was. Her love and legacy will never be forgotten. Sorry I have to read this, but I'm trying to keep myself straight here. Her memory will be a blessing to all of us that were blessed by her light and love. And thank everyone for coming. You want to say anything? It's okay. It's okay.
We'll now hear from Sherry and Alana.
Can we make it louder? Oh, it doesn't? Okay. I'm gonna go first. A life full of love, laughter, and adventure. A tribute to my mom. My mom, affectionately known to everyone as Mimi, was a woman of many names. To some, she was Grandma Mimi, Aunt Mimi, Mrs. Lederman, and to the caregivers and staff at Park Plaza, Miss Mimi. But to me, she was simply Mom. She was one popular lady, though she never fully realized just how many friends she had. Her closest relationship was with her sister Angel, her BFF. When COVID hit, we decided it would be best for Mom to move in with her sister Angel on Carlove Street. That way they could see each other because people weren't remember, not leaving houses, but they needed to be together. The arrangement was meant for Mom to be Angel's caregiver, which became a running joke. Whenever Angel was in the hospital or even at the doctor's office, the social workers would ask if she has someone caring for her at home. And she'd say, yes, my sister's my caregiver. Though Mom was actually older, the house had 2 bedrooms, but true to their childhood habits, they shared one bed. Staying up until midnight or 1 a.m. watching their favorite TV series and shows and movies together. It was one big slumber party. At 89 years young, Mom remained a beacon of kindness and warmth, always finding something positive to say about almost everyone. I'm not only proud to be her daughter, but honored to have cared for her in her final years. When she transitioned to Park Plaza, our initial fear quickly dissolved as she transformed it into a new home. Within just 1 day, everybody there knew and loved Mimi. Her natural warmth and friendliness making her heart of her new community. Mom had a charming way of asking for things without directly asking. If she wanted ice cream, she'd casually suggest, I bet you want to stop and get some ice cream. And at the grocery store, she'd say things like, don't you need orange juice? Meaning she needed the orange juice. Though she held a master's degree in education and worked as a substitute teacher at Hello Torah, her true passion was being a travel agent. She loved helping people plan their vacations, and it showed in our own family trips. In early years, our vacations followed a wonderful pattern. Winters in Miami at the Sterling Kosher Hotel on the ocean, and summers in California with Aunt Ethel. I don't mean to repeat myself, but her career as a travel agent came with many perks that led to countless family adventures. She would attend travel shows, returning with armfuls of brochures, and somehow always seemed to win the vacation raffle. We made it a point to inspect hotels wherever we went so she could make informed recommendations to her clients. My mom lived a long, happy life, touching countless hearts with her kindness and joy. We were all blessed to have known her, and her legacy of love, laughter, and adventure lives on through the many lives she touched. Thank you. You got it.
My grandma Mimi was a very special person, not just to me, but she touched so many of you as well. Growing up, she was that type of grandma who always told the best bedtime stories, and loved singing in her beautiful opera voice. She loved ice cream and would sometimes refuse to eat meat during the day just so she could enjoy her scoop or maybe a Dove bar. When I was in grade school at Helatora, she was known as the best substitute teacher, Mrs. Lederman. I was always so proud to call her my grandma. She adored her students, and they would come up to her, especially outside of school, just to say hello. It would light up her face and put the biggest smile on her. And that's just it. Everywhere she went, she had this way of lighting up the room with her bright smile and twinkly eyes. She was always happy, always excited to see you. And that energy was infectious, and she made everyone feel so loved. She wouldn't miss a school play, a performance, or a graduation. She was always there, cheering on everyone she loved. And when I'd bring my kids to visit her on Fridays, especially if we came for the oneg, it made her so happy. She loved my kids so much, and it was clear how much they meant to her. As many of you know, she loved her Starbucks coffee, especially with her sister, my Aunt Angel. They would meet every morning with my mom and Aunt Susie, and they became known as the Coffee Clutch. I can only imagine my aunt and grandma right now sitting together with their coffees watching over us. Saying goodbye is never easy, but I believe my grandma's neshama is still very much with us. She may not be here physically, but the love, wisdom, and the joy she shared with all of us will continue to grow in the hearts of everyone who knew her. Her memory will live on in the lessons she taught, the smiles she gave, and the way she made us feel. Thank you.
Finally, we will hear from Ari.
My grandma Mimi was truly the happiest person I've ever known. No matter what life threw her way, she always had a smile, a joke, and a warmth that made you feel like everything was going to be okay. She wasn't just somebody who found happiness. She created it, shared it, and made sure everyone around her felt it too. She taught me everything about cards, which is why when I turned 21, most people expected me to go out to the bar with my friends. But what I really wanted most, what I was looking forward to for years, leading up to that birthday, was to share that day with her and go to the casino. So I was so excited to take her to the Hard Rock and see her on the slot machines, and showed me how they worked. Yeah. There was no one better to celebrate that day with than her. She had this way of always making things fun when I was around her. And that night wasn't about winning or losing. It was just about being with her, soaking in her joy, and knowing that I had the best company in the world. And that's who she was to me. She made the ordinary moments special just by being in them. And though she's no longer here, I know her happiness lives in all of us. I will cherish all the memories that I have with her. Thank you.
So many special moments of a person so special who brought so much light and joy into this world and left so many beautiful, loving family and loving tributes. We are told in tradition, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, serve God with joy. And Mimi certainly did that. May we all continue to lift up her memory and bring a little piece of Mimi with us as we go. We make the world a better place around us, as she did. We now ask you to rise for the Cal Molly Memorial Prayer. El Malay Rachamim, Shochen Bamiromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona, Al Kanfei Hashchina, B'mahalas Kedoshim Utarim Kazor Harakia Masirim, Es Nishmas Miriam Bas Yitzchak V'Golda, Shachal Olama, Bavor Shitein Tzedakah Mispalin Badaskarish Nishmasa, Beganei Den Tehein Menuchasa, Lachen Bala Rachamim Yastireh B'Seitz K'nafal Le'olamim, Yitzur B'Tzarachayim Es Nishmasa, Adonai Hu Nachalasa, V'Sanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava, V'Nomar, Amen. God full of mercy, who dwells on high, grant fitting rests beneath the protective wings of the divine presence where the souls of the holy and pure ones, whose radiance is like the heavens, reside. For the soul of Mimi, daughter of Irving and Golda, who has gone to her eternal reward, insofar as we will make charitable and pray for her soul. May she be in the Garden of Eden. May he be our resting place. For the merciful one, shelter her under the protective wings forever. May he bind her soul in lasting life, for the Lord will surely be her benefactor, so that she can rest in peace in her allotted portion. And let us all respond, Amen.
You may be seated for a moment. This concludes the funeral here at the chapel. The interment will take place at Memorial Park Cemetery. For those who will be driving to the cemetery, we'll be lining up in our parking lot. We ask to have your headlights and hazard lights on while in procession. We also ask that you drive as close to safety as permits to the vehicle in front of you. At the conclusion of the interment, the family will be sitting Shiva at Park Plaza. They'll be there today from 1 till 2, Sunday through Wednesday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., and then 6:30 to 8:30 p.m., and Saturday evening from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. If you're going to be going to the cemetery with the family, we ask that you go immediately to your vehicles. And if you are not going to the cemetery, we ask that you leave the parking lot so the procession can line up uninterrupted. Please rise. We'll have all the grandsons come forward to act as pallbearers.